Hi, my name is Diana, and I'm going to talk about an Austrian architect, Friedrich Hundertwasser.
And I'm Joanna, and I'm going to be looking at the Field and Clegg Bradley Studios.
So, Hundertwasser was born in 1928 and he died in 2000. And he's an Austrian-born New Zealand artist and architect. And he's most famous for the way he was designing. He rejected all the straight lines, and he's famous for his spiral organic shapes.
So the Field and Clegg Bradley Studios, they're like the opposite. So instead of being all about sort of asymmetric, I guess you'd say, and informing like shapes and stuff, they do a lot more like form follows function. Buildings that just fit what they need to do, and they're really straight edges, very clean, not a lot of ornamentation, and sort of minimalist, I'd say.
The Hundertwasser is like totally opposite again, because he was really into function as well, because it was important for the building to suit its purpose, but he did it in a totally different way. He wanted it to be all combined into nature and be really for people. For example, he started his architectural stuff in the 50s, and his actual buildings started to be built in the 70s. So he wrote a lot of essays and manifestos, and one was the window ride. So it said that people can like draw around their windows, so whatever they can reach out of the windows, they can draw on those walls, so other passers-by can identify who lives in there, and so it gives like another soul for the building.
Okay.
So
that's really interesting. So like it's a sort of like the occupancy have input on what the building looks like.
Yeah.
Do you do mainly sort of buildings for people to live in, or does he do like
he does buildings for people to live in. One of his most famous buildings is the Hundertwasser house in Vienna, and this is like an apartment block. But he has also done like Spitalau waste incineration plant.
Okay.
So that's like a totally different style.
So he's got a broad range of talent.
He does.
That's cool. Well, the Field and Clegg Bradley Studios, it's a group of like 20 different people. So obviously they've got their own styles and they bring all their own different things in. But they do sort of a main combination of three things. So they do accommodation for like student accommodation and things like that. They also did some dwellings as such, like some terrace houses that were specifically designed to be really sustainable and to be compact for families to live in.
That's what we have in common, actually, the sustainability thing.
Yes. Well, the building that I sort of got introduced to this group by is the Cosford Cold War Aerodrome, which is basically a building that is designed to look similar to a hangar for an aeroplane, like an aircraft hangar.
Okay, yeah.
It's very curved and sits sort of like a wave coming out of the floor, but the whole building is pressurized and has its own internal circulation. It's also humidity controlled, because obviously these are historic like artifacts as such, so they have to be controlled in a specific way. And the way that it that interested me, that got me involved, was my interest in the history. So I went to visit, and it was just blown away by the sort of the scale of it and the way that it was designed. It fit in like this plane with a 50-meter wingspan, so that you could like walk through it and under it, and then the exhibition became part of the architecture as such, and it was all designed to fit specifically that piece. But in terms of the sustainability, it actually won an award because of the way that it recycles its own air to keep the heat circulating within a pressurized space, which meant that obviously you can't have a lot of internal, external like ventilation and stuff like that. It all had to be very controlled, which was, I think, I admire the clever design.
Okay, talking about the awards, there is something I can add. So Vienna in 2010 won an award as World City closest to sustainable waste management for the achievements in the area of waste management, and it is mainly connected to the Spittelau building I mentioned before, because that's the building that was built in like 60s and there was a fire in it, so it was redesigned by Hundertwasser in 1989. And at the beginning, he really didn't want to do this project because it's so against all his morals about the environment. But he was talked into it after the budget was really raised up. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any precise numbers about it, but there was this fact. And now this building has his own design, his like personality in it, like. All the colorful, and there are trees around it and everything. And so how it works is the municipal waste is being turned into the heat and electricity for the city, and also the idea of its location is that it is in the middle of the city, so that's the place where the waste is produced and where all the energy goes as well. So it doesn't have to travel far. That's another key point for being this sustainable. And yeah, this building really, really inspires me because it's beautiful and just its purpose. So
drew you to that then?
So, as I mentioned before, Hundertwasser was really, really against straight lines. He actually had this one quote that people should be forbidden to carry rulers around them.
Okay.
And so it is sort of made out of different square-like shapes, of course, without any straight angles, and with different colors. And they are trees growing out of the windows on the walls. They are sort of like glued on the walls, but those are like actual trees. You can look closer to it. And it has a really high tower and with like a golden ball on top of it.
Lots of ornamentation then.
Yeah,
it's very...
really, really a lot of it.
Is there any, do you know what that would be like influenced by or anything like that?
Yeah, so Hundertwasser is said to be sui generis, if I pronounce it right. So that means that he is an artist of his own kind.
Okay.
So he wasn't influenced by any of modernism or postmodernism ideas.
So very unique of his own,
he is. Like maybe your first impression could be that his bright colors have connection with the postmodernism, but they don't, because he was more inspired by the colors of nature, and he admired kids because of the way they can think and all the spirals they use and how creative they are. You know, like little kids are always attracted to bright colors, and so was he. Okay, so I really love how Hundertwasser uses color and everything, because it doesn't seem to be childish and just get interesting.
Yeah, so I was going to say, when I first saw the work, I didn't think that the colours were bright colours of like Memphis and stuff like that. It was more of a feeling, you know, like how Gaudi, especially in the shapes with like, you know, that the mush, like not mushroom, the onion top shapes and the pastels and the tertiary colours. Basically, they do a lot of similar. Gives you a similar emotion, I guess, when you see the kind of the buildings that they're doing.
Yeah, I saw this bit of the stuff he has done in Barcelona.
Yeah, the specific one, you know, the Garda Familia, the huge cathedral that's not even finished yet. That one,
It's like, if you look at it, it's sort of like Gothic at the beginning, but if you look closer, you see those things Hundertwasser was using in his designs as well.
Gaudi, I was going to say the thing about Gaudi was like he was sort of inspired by like the natural form as well, and sort of had like a little Art Nouveau vibe, I guess.
Art Nouveau?
Yes, forms, but also these colours. I think they're like the bright blues and the bright pinks, but the
Art Nouveau I know because I live in Riga, in the city, which is really, really famous for Art Nouveau, and it has no connection with Hundertwasser. Like, maybe apart from just the idea of using all the plants, nature and colours, but if you look at them together, they are in no way similar.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, in conversations, obviously doing a bit of research about Gaudi, it did say like that he had the influences from Nouveau, but I feel like there might be different sort of interpretations of Nouveau and different interpretations of like sort of, so you know how we were talking about like hot modernism, so you have like a building, like a modernist building in a country where it's very warm, you'd have a lot of muted colours to reflect the sun, and everything is really well designed to create sort of a more comfortable living situation, where obviously in darker, colder countries you have darker, warmer colours to absorb the heat and stuff. So I think that's probably why there's that sort of difference there, because obviously Gaudi's scene is slightly different. Nouveau,
because the Art Nouveau I know is just like something so different.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go on back to you. You didn't mention what was the time your architects are working?
So they're a current working process.
Okay.
Like they as architects, they're still building. So for example, the conservatoire next to BCU, they built that when it was first initially designed. That was the original design, I think, was Tom Jarman. He did the original design, and then obviously as a collective the studio developed that. But in terms of sort of buildings that you'd recognise, so like I had a lot of interest in the Conservatoire and Cosford Aerodrome, so I had to look to see what other things they'd built, and I found a sprawling list of stuff that I'd actually been to seen that I didn't realise that was by the same person, and there's like places that I already felt interested by. So for example, Aston Uni, the engineering building, that's them. They're also really interested in like restoration work, so obviously we both have an interest in like Gothic architecture.
Yeah, I love it.
They do a lot of work to do with like Bath Abbey. They are building an extension, like a modernist extension with a Gothic twist, so that it blends in. So they're influenced not by like a specific genre, but by the context of the situation.
So as you understand, they don't really have one style, they have like a really broad...
Very adaptive, so like for example, like with the Abbey, they are building a modernist building connected to a contemporary building on a 400-year-old cathedral, and basically they've taken the Gothic vibe and the cut stone and all that, and they are using the sharp angles.
But would it be like they build something because of their own initiative? They are like, oh, we really like that style and we're going to build this, or all of those projects are sort of like rebuilding something, or all of them are like someone asks them to do that?
A lot of work's commission work, so they do a lot of things rather, because it's a collective, they're a group of people, and they get commissioned obviously to do a specific building, but with their style and their flair, rather than like, for example, because you've got an individual artist doing
who was also writing his own manifestos and everything.
Yeah, so it's like a different approach to sort of design in that way. So obviously you've got a designer there that's can build for himself, build a house for himself, can live and do his own thing, have his own ideas and stuff. Obviously this is because this is a collective, it's got a lot more to do with being able to adapt to a situation, to embrace what's already there, listen to other people. It's a completely different sort of vibe, a different way of working. But I really, however much like obviously I respect like the artists that can come up with such like an intricate design and stuff like that, I believe that like being able to work as a group to create something that fits a situation or works using like the minds, multiple minds to get the best out of a situation. So like
they're like in a way so different.
Yeah. Well, they're rebuilding a castle in Yorkshire at the moment that was like has been dilapidated since like the 30s, I think it was, and they're rebuilding it from scratch in precisely the same like historical manner, using the same like hand carved tools and hand working all of the sort of the bricks to everything, so that the slabs fit. And it's like a labour of love between sort of 15 different people. However, they also did the building for in a complete stark contrast, Jodrell Bank. I don't know whether you you know what that is? So it's a space centre that homes some of the biggest telescopes in the UK, and it also has a visitor centre which you can go around. It has like a little bit of a museum and stuff like that, and they've created just like a textured surface to the exterior of the building, so that it has a sort of almost ethereal sort of moon texture, like a cratered floor texture, but without being too obvious. It's very strict in design, but the things that have that character are the cladding with the moon sort of surface texture, and the colour scheme is all in like sort of shiny greys, and also has banding of sort of lots of like speckled pinks and purples and blues.
Okay, so wait. Yeah, so I really like how they sort of work at the same time. I mean, Hundertwasser works a little bit like in the 70s and still until now, like he died in 2000, so his last project he started in 1999, and it actually was built after his death.
Yeah.
And your architects, they sort of work at the same time, and the way how different they are.
I don't know how we managed to pick such completely different people, but it's a very interesting way of seeing that there can be such a variety in contemporary design.
Because if we look back at the 20th century, what we have learned is goes from modernism to postmodernism with loads of different styles, but they sort of go from one to another because one doesn't like one thing, another one doesn't like another.
It's all about rebellion.
Yeah. And now we have like two different architects. Well, yours is not an architect, but they go totally in a totally different way. That's like, I really like it.
Okay.
Okay, that was like a really interesting discussion. Thank
Fantastic.
you. Yeah, this was like.